How did the Buddha spend his last day? According to Theravada Buddhism, whether to be vegetarian or not is entirely up to the individual. They believe that Buddhism emphasizes the purity and cleanliness of the mind over the purity and cleanliness of food. This issue is often hotly debated, mainly by those who follow Mahayana Buddhism, which advocates vegetarianism, and by those who comment on Buddhism based on the Buddhist precept of non-killing. We need to understand that Theravada Buddhism, also known as the Southern School, still practices food alms today in the same way it was practiced during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddhism advocates that monks and nuns should let go of all worldly attachments. Once you become a monk, you must give up pursuing a livelihood through labor. Only in this way can one focus on practicing to attain enlightenment. Monks do not engage in labor but still need to eat to maintain daily energy. Therefore, they can only live by begging for food, which is essentially asking for alms. This is also a form of morality among the sects in India at that time. They believe that monks begging for food is also an act to create a good connection with sentient beings, helping everyone to form a bond with the Buddha and providing an opportunity for people to practice generosity and accumulate merit. Therefore, most people see monks from the Theravada tradition begging for alms. Those who beg for food cannot request that the donor prepare the food according to their preferences, as if they were in a restaurant. Thus, from the Buddha's time until now, this tradition of accepting whatever food is given during alms rounds has remained unchanged. Secondly, Theravada Buddhism advocates vegetarianism in the form of the 3 pure meats, which means they are allowed to eat 3 types of meat. First, meat they have not seen killed. Second, meat they have not heard the killing of the animal. Third, meat with no suspicion that the animal was killed specifically for them. Monks who eat such food do not violate the precept of non-killing. This was established by the Buddha and recorded in the Vinaya monastic code. It is said that when the Buddha was teaching, a monk named Devadatta suggested that the Buddha enforce vegetarianism and ban the eating of meat and fish. The Buddha flatly rejected this proposal. The Buddha probably had practical reasons and considerations for the social context of that time, as vegetables were not abundantly cultivated in the northern regions of ancient India, especially during drought seasons. For example, later on, it would have been very difficult for places like Tibet to sustain a vegetarian diet due to the scarcity of vegetables and fruits, while livestock were abundant. This shows the Buddha's wisdom in foreseeing the future of humanity. During the Buddha's time and even today, Theravada monks still live on alms food, which depends on the generosity of lay people. If monks were to demand only vegetarian food, it would inadvertently burden the donors who provide daily meals for the monks. In reality, most people in these regions make it a point to prepare food for the monks once a day, keeping some for their families. Most of these lay families traditionally consume meat, as was the custom since the Buddha's time. Therefore, Theravada monks accept and eat whatever is given to them, even meat, as long as it falls under the 3 pure meats principle. Additionally, since Theravada Buddhism prohibits monks from accepting monetary donations, they do not have the opportunity to buy food and choose what they eat. Even if they wanted to be vegetarian, they rely entirely on the alms food provided by the villagers and donors daily. Even when they cook within the monastery, the ingredients are donated by lay people. In contrast, Mahayana Buddhism, especially in China, later rejected this practice. They believe that vegetarianism means absolutely no consumption of meat or fish, only vegetables, fruits, and beans. Why is there a difference between Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism? This can be traced back to Emperor Wu of Lian, also known as Lian Wudi, during the southern Lian dynasty in China. Emperor Wu was a devout Buddhist. During his reign, he built hundreds of temples to promote Buddhism. Not only that, but he also left the palace 3 times to become a monk, diligently reciting scriptures and praying for the people's blessings. Emperor Wu was a devout Buddhist, reading all types of Buddhist scriptures, with his favorite being the Shurangama Sutra. In it, the Buddha said, "Those who cultivate samadhi must be freed from killing. If one does not cut off killing, they cannot exit the dust. Even if one has much samadhi, if one does not quit killing, they will fall into the path of demons. Superior ones will become mighty demon kings, middling ones will become flying yakshas, and lesser ones will become earthbound rakshasas. These demons may also claim to have achieved supreme enlightenment. After my parinirvana, in the Dharma-ending age, these demons will flourish, claiming one can achieve enlightenment while eating meat. You should know that those who eat meat, even if they achieve enlightenment, are akin to demons. When their blessings are exhausted, they will fall into the sea of suffering. They are not my disciples. Such people kill, devour, and consume each other endlessly. How can they escape samsara? Thus, Emperor Wu decreed the removal of meat and wine from the palace. His ideology deeply influenced Chinese society for a long time and completely persuaded Mahayana Buddhist monks to abstain from meat and alcohol to this day. From my perspective, regardless of whether it is Theravada or Mahayana Buddhism, the purpose of vegetarianism is to cultivate compassion, reduce anger, practice the precept of non-killing, and appreciate the lives of all beings. When one has compassion, they naturally do not harm sentient beings. Many people become vegetarians because they cannot bear to harm animals. It is not only Buddhists. Many Westerners and people of other religions are also adopting vegetarianism out of compassion. If you are a lay Buddhist, you should think and decide for yourself what is right, what diet is moral, and in line with the Buddhist teachings. As this issue is understood and practiced differently across various Buddhist traditions, you should read and understand more to determine your diet to avoid negative thoughts and actions related to killing. In summary, from the Theravada Buddhist perspective, you can choose to be vegetarian. Or, if being vegetarian is costly and difficult, you can continue eating meat without the intention of killing while still being a virtuous Buddhist. From the Mahayana perspective, ordained monks and nuns are required to be strictly vegetarian, consuming only vegetables, plants, and fruits. Lay Buddhists are encouraged to be vegetarian if it suits their health and convenience, especially on special days such as the full moon, new moon, or certain fasting days to cultivate compassion towards people and all beings. However, it should not be assumed that merely being vegetarian makes one a good Buddhist. Buddhism emphasizes practicing the precepts and cultivating the mind for purity, which creates good karma and blessings. There is evidence that some people, despite being strict vegetarians, still harbor anger and act negatively when personal interests are threatened. For instance, a vegetarian might beat a dog to death if it bites their child. Meat-eating adherents argue strongly that the Buddha himself ate meat. He consumed what was offered to him, yet he attained enlightenment. This demonstrates that vegetarianism does not significantly contribute to spiritual development. When we eat meat, we indirectly share responsibility for the death of the animal. However, the same applies to vegetarianism. Farmers plow fields, significantly impacting the habitats of insects and small animals. They spray pesticides, killing many insects to produce fresh vegetables for vegetarians. Many animals and insects consider plants their homes and conditions for survival. We eat vegetables because we believe they are insentient. But is this accurate? Plants communicate with each other in their way. They need water and sunlight to live. Seeds are their offspring, and flowers are their reproductive method. The Buddha said that there are millions of living beings in a glass of water. But why do vegetarians drink it? Do these beings enjoy living in our bodies? Of course not. We impose this because we need to survive. Meat eaters can still achieve the same tranquility as vegetarians according to the Buddha's teachings. The important thing is the quality of the mind, not your diet. Many Buddhists are very concerned about not eating meat, but do not care about changing their selfish, deceitful, cruel, or jealous habits. They change their diet because it is easier, whereas changing the mind is difficult. Whether you are vegetarian or not, remember that purifying the mind to reach a state of calm, unaffected by anything, is the most important aspect of Buddhism. This modern view is clearly reflected in Japan, also known as the land of the rising sun. Here, there are unique practices, such as Buddhist monks being free to eat meat, drink alcohol, marry, and have children just like everyone else. We are used to the idea that those who become monks abandon worldly life to purify their minds. Monks usually eat vegetarian, chant the Buddha's name, and give up all vanity and ambition, even the matter of family happiness, to devote themselves entirely to the Buddha. However, in Japan, things are different. Buddhist monks in this country lead worldly lives, eating meat, drinking alcohol, getting married, and having children. This surprises and intrigues many Buddhists and those knowledgeable about Buddhism worldwide. It may be strange to international visitors, but it is normal in Japan. Why are Japanese monks allowed to marry, eat meat, and drink alcohol? Here's the explanation for this unusual phenomenon. In Japanese history, monks have been allowed to marry since the Heian period, and this continued through the Kamakura, Muromachi, and Edo periods. This gradually became a tradition maintained to this day. In Japan and other Eastern countries, various Buddhist sects have emerged. Each sect has different rules, practices, approaches, and unique characteristics. Some Buddhist sects established in Japan include Zen, Vinaya, Pure Land, and Tendai. Later, Soka Gakkai and Nichiren Shoshu also emerged. Essentially, monks are not required to remain celibate for life. Some monks from these sects choose to live alone, while others return to worldly life, marrying and having children. Marriage is a personal decision for each monk, but they still maintain their responsibilities to the Buddha. This stems from Emperor Meiji's ideas. In 1868, marking the end of the shogunate's 800-year rule and the beginning of the Meiji era under the emperor's rule, Japan started to open up to the world and modernize. This meant that everything related to the shogunate was destroyed or abolished, including Buddhism. Before the Meiji Restoration, 1866 to 1869, Shinto and Buddhism were combined into a system called Shinbutsu Shugo. However, after Emperor Meiji came to power, Shinto was separated from Buddhism. The Japanese emperor claimed to be a descendant of Kami, a god in Shinto. Meanwhile, the shogunate supported Buddhism. This led to the establishment of a form of Buddhism called Haibutsu Kishaku, which resulted in the destruction of temples, images, and texts, forcing Buddhist monks to return to secular life. If you have watched our video on the Dharma ending age, I believe this is an example. In 1872, the Meiji government issued the Nikujiki Saitai law, allowing Buddhist monks to marry, eat meat, and drink alcohol to normalize their lives. This was seen as a way for the government to weaken Buddhism. Some monks chose to remain celibate, but most, after the Nikujiki Saitai law was issued, led to the majority of Buddhist sects in Japan adopting a hereditary system. This means that after the abbot dies, his son inherits the position. A notable example is Shinran Shonin, 1173–1263, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu sect of Japanese Buddhism. He married openly and had 7 children. His descendants continued and maintained the prosperity of the sect. Nowadays, in Japan, there are even matchmaking parties for monks. Monks are considered ideal husbands by Japanese women. They are seen as intellectuals with high incomes, allowed to run businesses, own stable homes, reliable and rarely unfaithful. These explanations clarify the mystery of the private lives of Japanese monks. According to the Japanese, being single or married is a personal choice. As long as believers always direct their hearts to the Buddha, that is enough. Quotes from Honin, the founder of the Jodo sect, include, "If it is easier to express faith by chanting the Buddha's name alone, then one should remain single. If it is easier to do so with a spouse, then it is better to marry." The important thing is how we express our faith in chanting the Buddha's name. What do you think of this perspective of Japanese Buddhism? Please leave your comments below. Another fascinating piece of information is that a monk can combine Buddhism and music to convey messages more engagingly. An example is a monk causing a sensation by singing Buddhist chants in rock style. Specifically, Japanese monk Kanko Yakushiji recently went viral for performing the Great Compassion Mantra and the Heart Sutra in rock music style. Born in 1974 in Imabari, a city in Ehime Prefecture, Japan, his father was the abbot of Kaizenji Temple. Most Buddhist sects in Japan follow a hereditary system, meaning that after the abbot dies, his son inherits the position. Thus, Kanko Yakushiji was raised to become a monk. As a child, Yakushiji loved music, especially rock, and after turning 20, he opposed his family's tradition, forming his own band to pursue his artistic dreams. "Music was my escape," he said. His early songs had a pop or folk influence, mainly about family, friends, and hometown. At 27, his band signed a contract with a major record label in Japan. However, Transitioning from independent activities to a professional environment left the members disoriented. They struggled to understand their message and gradually lost interest in singing. After a performance on Kyo Island, an elderly audience member approached the signing table, crying and expressing how their songs reminded him of his childhood and loved ones. In that moment, Yakushiji realized that Buddhism was similar to music. If he could sow positive emotions, he wrote the song I Am about the journey of self-discovery while contemplating gathering. At 36, he began to return to monastic studies, spending tens of hours meditating, cleaning, growing vegetables, and going on alms rounds. In 2016, while setting the Heart Sutra to music, Jakushiri considered conveying Buddhist messages in his own way. The monk combined sutras with electronic music, and videos of his performances of the Heart Sutra and Great Compassion Mantra attracted millions of views on YouTube. Directly addressing faith in Buddhism during the pandemic, many commented that the monk's videos helped them feel at peace. He spoke about the struggle between his artistic self and his Buddhist self in Transinko. I am no longer trapped by any identity. I am a monk who happens to like music. I am just myself and convey the message I want. Many people say that the Buddha entered nirvana after eating rotten pork. What is the truth of this story, and why did the Buddha abandon the path of extreme asceticism? Let's explore this in today's video. The Buddha abandoned the ascetic path and self-mortification to the point of near exhaustion. He realized that merely meditating and anchoring the mind in infinite emptiness, as taught by ascetic teachers, would never end the suffering in the realms of desire, form, and formlessness. By the end of his 6-year practice, Bodhisattva Siddhartha questioned why efforts in extreme asceticism showed no potential for joy or enlightenment. Therefore, he abandoned the path of extreme asceticism. He also recognized that just meditating and anchoring the mind in infinite emptiness would not end the suffering in the 3 realms. Thus, Prince Siddhartha decided to follow his own middle path. In his period of asceticism, he became like a skeleton. Prince Siddhartha studied with 2 renowned Hindu Brahmin teachers, Arata Kalama and Udaka Ramaputta. They taught him to reflect on the illusory nature of all phenomena and practice tranquil meditation. However, he quickly realized that these teachings would not end the suffering in the realms of desire, form, and formlessness. So the prince went to a forest near the Nairanjana River and joined a group of 5 ascetic monks, Kondana, Vapa, Bhatia, Mahanama, and Asaji. These men would later become the Buddha's first 5 disciples. During this time, the prince rigorously applied ascetic practices, meditating on vast awareness like emptiness. The scriptures record that in the first 2 years, he ate almost nothing but a few sesame seeds. In the next 2 years, he only drank water, and in the last 2 years, he consumed no food at all. During this period of severe asceticism, his body became emaciated, dark, and skeletal. People called him the Dark Sage. He did not move, sitting in silent meditation like a rock, until ants built a nest beneath him. Water buffaloes and shepherd boys were amazed by this strange dark sage. Some mischievous boys even heated iron rods and poked his ears to tease him. Near the Nairanjana River, where the Buddha practiced asceticism for 6 years, there was a large village. Only 2 beautiful girls named Shagata and Sulya lived there. They had heard many wonderful things about Prince Siddhartha, such as his extraordinary appearance, outstanding talent in all 64 arts, and immense kindness and generosity. For 12 years, the 2 girls maintained their virtuous conduct and silently prayed to become concubines of the prince, unaware that he had renounced worldly life. One day they received a divine omen instructing them to offer food to 2 ascetic monks to fulfill their wishes. Overjoyed, they milked 500 red cows, cooked a pot of milk porridge, and kept it warm overnight in a clean corner of their house. The next morning, the porridge was delicious, with a smooth milk cream surface showing 8 auspicious symbols. 2 celestial beings, Brahma and Indra, disguised themselves as 2 ascetic monks, and the girls believed they were the ones to whom they should offer the food according to the divine omen. When the girls joyfully offered the milk porridge, Indra instructed them to first offer it to Brahma. But Brahma taught that offering the food to a celestial being or deity would accumulate more merit. Then the two celestial beings revealed their true forms, saying that offering the food to Bodhisattva Siddhartha, who was practicing asceticism by the Niranjana river, would multiply their merit and fulfill all their wishes. Obeying, the girls placed the porridge in a precious bowl and offered it to the Bodhisattva. When they found him, emaciated and exhausted, with his eyes closed and faint breathing, the girls were overjoyed because they knew they had found the right Bodhisattva as instructed by the celestial beings. They offered the precious bowl of delicious milk porridge. After consuming the porridge, he placed the bowl in the Niranjana river, vowing, "I vow to attain ultimate enlightenment. If my vow comes true, this bowl will float upstream." Immediately, a whirlpool caused the bowl to float upstream. The Bodhisattva then crossed the Niranjana river. A farmer offered him a bunch of kusa grass, which he used as a cushion for meditation, and then sat under a Bodhi tree, vowing, "If I do not attain enlightenment, I will not rise from this place." For 49 days and nights, he meditated under the Bodhi tree, recognizing that asceticism did not lead to liberation. Prince Siddhartha decided to abandon the path of asceticism. He accepted a bowl of milk from Sujata, bathed in the Niranjana river, and began a practice of introspection following the middle way, avoiding extremes. Once his health was restored, his mind was clear and focused. The Buddha went to the Bodhi tree and resolved to meditate. During this time, the Bodhisattva made a great vow, "Though my flesh may decay and bones may break, if I do not attain enlightenment, I will not leave this Bodhi tree." The ascetics abandoned him, despising him for giving up and not pursuing extreme asceticism to the end. Alone in the dangerous wilderness, facing countless dangers, the Bodhisattva entered meditation with unwavering determination and a diamond-like resolve. 49 days and nights of meditation under the Bodhi tree involved a fierce battle against inner demons and external obstacles. In the end, he achieved a great victory on the final night before wisdom burst forth. The scriptures record that the Bodhisattva approached ultimate enlightenment by sequentially entering the first, second, third, and fourth jhanas. On the foundation of the fourth jhana, the Bodhisattva utilized his pure, untainted, flexible, usable, awakened, stable, and unshakable mind. Directing this mind towards enlightenment, he recalled his past lives in great detail. This was the first wisdom, the knowledge of past lives, which the Bodhisattva attained during the first watch of the night. Wisdom and tranquility arose, but the Bodhisattva remained mindful and continued to direct his mind towards understanding the phenomena of birth and death of beings. He saw clearly that the actions of each person are the factors leading them through the cycle of birth and death in the three realms. The Bodhisattva attained the divine eye, the second wisdom, during the middle watch of the night and the last watch of the night of enlightenment. As the morning star arose, the Bodhisattva achieved the knowledge of the destruction of the defilements, shattering the darkness of desire, existence, and ignorance, and wisdom burst forth. He proclaimed, "I am liberated, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming into any state of being." He attained supreme perfect enlightenment and was honored as the Buddha with 10 epithets: Tathagata, Arhat, Samyaksambuddha, Vidyakrana Sampanna, Shagata, Lokavidu, Anuttara, Purushadhammasarathi, Sastadeva Manushyanam, and Bhagavat. Throughout countless eons practicing the Bodhisattva path, and in this current lifetime, the Bodhisattva Siddhartha endured many hardships, sacrificing even his life to achieve enlightenment. The Shakyamuni Buddha under the Bodhi tree attained the three knowledges: knowledge of past lives, divine eye, and knowledge of the destruction of the defilements on the night of his enlightenment. These three knowledges are the insight of meditation that the Buddha developed and accomplished based on the foundation of the four jhanas. This discovery of the Buddha later became the fundamental principle for the practice and realization of his monastic disciples. The Mahashihanada Sutta summarizes the practice path of a monk by progressing through the first to the fourth jhanas. From the fourth jhana, they focus on insight meditation on impermanence and non-self, eliminating the 10 fetters to sequentially attain the 4 fruits and ultimately achieve nirvana. You can refer to the sutra for effective practice methods. On the second waning night in the Sala forest, the village of Para, Shakyamuni Buddha entered nirvana. For the enlightened ones, they can manifest entering extinction through various conditions such as ascending into the sky or entering meditation to pass away. But Shakyamuni Buddha chose to enter extinction through the condition of illness after consuming the last meal containing poisonous mushrooms offered by the blacksmith Kunda. Why did he choose this method? This may be a question for many Buddhists, especially those studying Buddhism through texts written by Western Buddhist scholars. Firstly, let's talk about the layman Kunda, who invited the Buddha and the monks to receive the last meal offering the next day. The Buddha accepted after delivering a sermon to Kunda and his 15 colleagues. The next day, the Buddha and the monks went to Kunda's house. After the Buddha and the monks were seated, Kunda respectfully presented the Buddha with a bowl of mushroom soup that he had specially prepared for the Buddha. When the Buddha accepted the bowl of mushroom soup from Kunda, he told Kunda, "Do not offer the remaining mushroom soup to the other monks." Kunda complied and withdrew. The original term Sukaramadava was translated by Western scholars as truffle. According to the English dictionary, truffle has 4 meanings. First, a soft food for pigs. Second, a food that pigs like very much. Third, tender pork. And fourth, ground dried pork. Additionally, the term Sukara Madhava is a combination of 2 words, Sukara meaning pig and Madhava meaning tender. Due to this meaning, some Westerners have assumed that Kunda offered a bowl of ground dried pork soup to the Buddha, and the Buddha was poisoned by eating this pork soup. According to other scholars, Sukara Madhava means a delicacy, a food that wild pigs like very much. Setting aside all scholarly debates, we need to understand that Kunda was a lay Buddhist who knew that the Buddha was accustomed to eating vegetarian food. He was sensitive enough to empathize with the suffering of sentient beings. So how could he offer a bowl of ground pork soup? Second, why did the Buddha instruct Kunda not to offer the remaining mushroom soup to the other monks? Did the Buddha know that the mushroom soup was poisonous and that it was his time to enter nirvana, so he did not want the other monks to eat it? Third, if it was ground dried pork soup, why would it be considered precious enough to offer solely to the Buddha? Therefore, it is very likely that this was mushroom soup, as this type of mushroom is very rare and only grows at the base of sandalwood trees and can only be found in the forest. These are the questions and differing opinions, and we present them here for discussion. I would like to quote a passage from the Digha Nikaya, translated from the original Pali. After the night had passed, the blacksmith Kunda prepared hard and soft foods and a dish of mushrooms, and announced to the Blessed One, "Venerable Sir, it is time, the meal is ready." In the morning, the Blessed One put on his robe, took his bowl, and went with the community of monks to Kunda's house. When he arrived, they sat down on the seats, prepared. After sitting down, the Blessed One said to Kunda, "Kunda, serve me the dish of mushrooms you have prepared. Serve the hard and soft foods to the monks." "Yes, Venerable Sir," Kunda replied. Then the Blessed One said to Kunda, "Kunda, whatever is left of the dish of mushrooms, bury it in a hole. I do not see anyone in this world with its gods, Mara and Brahma, among this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its princes and its people, who could digest it except the Tathagata." "Yes, Venerable Sir," Kunda replied. He buried the remaining dish of mushrooms in a hole, returned to the Blessed One, and sat down to one side. Then the Blessed One gave a discourse to Kunda. After eating the meal prepared by the blacksmith Kunda, the Blessed One was afflicted with severe illness, with bloody diarrhea, and endured great pain. Mindful and aware, the Blessed One endured the illness with patience. The Blessed One said to Ananda, "Ananda, there may be someone who will say, 'Friend, it is no gain for you, it is ill for you, that the Blessed One took his last meal from you and then passed away.' Ananda, you should dispel any remorse of Kunda by saying, 'Friend Kunda, it is gain for you, it is well for you, that the Blessed One took his last meal from you and then passed away.' I have heard and received this from the Blessed One himself. By this deed, the merit of the blacksmith Kunda will lead to long life, beauty, happiness, fame, heavenly rebirth, and sovereignty." The lesson that Buddha left through his last meal to enlighten sentient beings is that someone who offers with a pure heart receives immense blessings for many lifetimes. After the Buddha accepted the meal offered by the blacksmith Kunda, he preached a sermon to Kunda. The sermon explained that those who offer meals before the Buddha's enlightenment and before his parinirvana receive immense blessings. From the sermon, we understand that it was the Buddha's compassionate intention to alleviate Kunda's worries about having offered the poisonous mushrooms to him. The two offerings confirmed by the Buddha to yield great blessings are Sujata's offering before Buddha's enlightenment and Kunda's offering before Buddha's parinirvana. Moreover, Buddha's compassionate manifestation provided future practitioners and donors with a correct understanding of offerings. He demonstrated that when we offer with a pure, sincere, and faithful heart, even if the food is accidentally poisonous, our merit is not diminished or significantly affected. Kunda's offering, despite causing the Buddha to fall seriously ill, still resulted in great blessings for Kunda. Therefore, when we offer to the practitioners with a pure heart, regardless of what happens, we should not worry. Secondly, being ill does not preclude attaining enlightenment, and those who are enlightened are not immune to illness. With his superior wisdom, Buddha foresaw that sentient beings in the degenerate age would hold the mistaken belief that practitioners who fall ill cannot attain enlightenment, and those who have attained enlightenment cannot fall ill. Before relinquishing his physical body, Buddha, the fully enlightened one, suffered severe pain in his final moments. He manifested physical illness to establish the right view that being ill does not mean one cannot attain enlightenment, and those who have attained enlightenment are not immune to illness. This shows us that the passing of enlightened practitioners is due to various causes, not all of whom pass away in seated meditation without illness. Through his last meal, Buddha demonstrated immense compassion towards all sentient beings, preventing future generations from making erroneous judgments about enlightened practitioners passing away due to various causes. Additionally, Buddha showed practitioners how to maintain a calm mind during their final moments of severe illness, still practicing meditation and attaining enlightenment while relinquishing their physical body. This is an expression of Buddha's boundless compassion. Thirdly, a teacher always takes dangers upon themselves. During the last meal, Buddha knew the mushrooms were poisonous, so he instructed Kunda to offer them to him while other dishes were served to the monks. From this, we learn an invaluable lesson from Buddha's compassion. A teacher takes on the danger for themselves and provides safety and well-being to their disciples. To walk the path of Buddha and achieve supreme enlightenment, we must practice in the same way. We take on the difficult tasks and provide the easy and pleasant things to others. Fourthly, enlightened practitioners possess all means to purify the minds of sentient beings. On the way from Kunda's house to Kushinagar, Buddha rested under a tree and instructed Ananda 3 times to fetch water from a river that had been disturbed. When Ananda placed his bowl in the water, the river instantly became clear. This miraculous transformation was due to the Buddha's merit and power. Therefore, we cannot take Buddha's manifestation in this event to assert that an enlightened practitioner's power and merit are not affected by severe illness. This was Buddha's brilliant display to resolve doubts and purify the minds of sentient beings. When Ananda fetched water for the Buddha, he was still an unenlightened monk. Witnessing Buddha's illness naturally raised doubts in his mind. Buddha's manifestation ensured that Ananda's faith was solidified. With his exceptional memory, Ananda later compiled the scriptures. This affirmed that enlightened practitioners always have the means to purify the minds of sentient beings, maintaining their faith even in the face of severe illness. Through this, Buddha's disciples must recognize the boundless compassion of Buddha. Even in his final moments before nirvana, he continued to enlighten sentient beings, not just Kunda or Venerable Ananda, but all beings in future lifetimes. There is information that Buddha was killed by his closest disciple. What is the truth behind this story? Let's explore together. During Buddha's lifetime, with his superior wisdom, meticulous conduct, and boundless compassion, he converted many sentient beings. Many people, upon seeing him or hearing his teachings in the monastery, renounced worldly life to pursue a monastic path. From the time he began teaching to his parinirvana, he ordained many individuals. From the 5 brothers of Kondana to his last disciple, Venerable Subhadra, many of whom became enlightened saints, such as Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda, and Kassapa. However, among them there was a peculiar disciple. Although he was Buddha's disciple, he spent most of his life following Buddha and attempting to sabotage Buddhism, even trying to kill Buddha. This was Venerable Devadatta. Like Prince Siddhartha, Devadatta was also born into the Kshatriya class, the royal aristocracy of the time. He was a cousin of Prince Siddhartha. After Prince Siddhartha renounced worldly life and attained enlightenment, becoming the Buddha Shakyamuni, he returned to Kapilavastu to visit his father and relatives in the palace. During his stay in the capital, he converted many princes of the Shakya clan to ordain. Devadatta was among those who were ordained during this period. However, unlike other diligent disciples who gradually attained sainthood, Devadatta focused solely on developing supernatural powers without attaining any fruit of sainthood. Over time, his ego grew, and he aspired to replace Buddha as the leader of the Sangha. He thought that since he had supernatural powers and was a relative of Buddha, he was not inferior to Buddha. He believed he had enough influence within the Sangha and thus harbored the intention of usurping Buddha's position as the leader of the Sangha. With this intention, he committed many evil deeds to harm Buddha and the Sangha. Specifically, he attempted to harm Buddha 3 times. The first time, he colluded with King Ajatasattu to release a drunken elephant to harm Buddha. One day, when the Sangha was going for alms in Rajagaha, he had an extremely fierce elephant fed with alcohol and released it. When Buddha was walking towards Rajagaha, the drunken elephant charged at him, roaring. Devadatta and King Ajatasattu were certain that this time, Buddha and the accompanying monks would be trampled to death by the huge elephant. However, a miracle occurred. When the elephant charged, it felt the Buddha's compassion and immediately knelt at his feet. The plan of Devadatta and King Ajatasattu failed. The second time, Devadatta tried to harm the Buddha by rolling a stone down to crush him, which caused the Buddha to bleed from his foot. Not stopping after the first failure, Devadatta continued to plot against the Buddha. One day, while the Buddha was on his alms round, descending from Vulture Peak, Devadatta climbed to the top of the mountain, waiting to push a large boulder to crush the Buddha. He carefully calculated the timing and position, waiting for the precise moment when the Buddha would pass by. However, the mountain deity intervened and thwarted his plan. The boulder broke apart, and a fragment struck the Buddha's foot, causing it to bleed. Devadatta's attempt to harm the Buddha failed again. The third time, Devadatta attempted to divide the Sangha. He proposed 5 ascetic rules stricter than those of the Buddha, and claimed that his rules were superior to those of the Buddha. He said, "I now have stricter rules than the Buddha, which means I practice more rigorously than the Buddha. So now, all monks here who will follow me." Upon presenting these stricter rules, 500 monks wavered and followed Devadatta, forming their own Sangha. The Buddha then sent Sariputta and Moggallana to enlighten the 500 monks who had followed Devadatta, and gradually they returned to the Buddha. Eventually, Devadatta was left alone. At this point, he fell gravely ill. Realizing his mistakes, he sought to repent and return to the Buddha. He asked the monks to take him to the Buddha for repentance. However, when he was only a few hundred meters away from the Buddha, the ground split open and swallowed him, sending him to hell, known as the ground split and swallowed him into hell, irredeemable. From another perspective, we can see that the ascetic practices proposed by Devadatta were in line with the prevailing thoughts of the time, which is why many members of the Sangha supported him. These practices were common in some religions in India at the time. The influence of asceticism persists to this day, exemplified by Amar Bharati, a Hindu devotee who claims to have kept his arm raised since 1973. Although his right arm is now just skin and bone and immobile, it has become a symbol for followers of Shiva. Amar Bharati, originally from a middle-class family, had a job, a house, a wife, and 3 children. One morning in 1970, he woke up and decided to renounce everything to dedicate his life to Lord Shiva. He dressed simply and began wandering the streets of India, carrying only a metal trident. 3 years later, still feeling too attached to worldly pleasures, he decided to raise his right arm and keep it aloft for 38 years. Some believe he raised his arm to call for world peace, feeling distressed by global conflicts. According to Oddity Central, Amar Bharati has inspired many other devotees. Some have kept their arms raised for 7, 13, or even 25 years, enduring significant pain. Hindu devotees have various ways to show their devotion, such as abstaining from bathing, adhering to a strict vegetarian diet, and sleeping while standing. But Amar Bharati's method is truly unique. However, according to the Buddha's perspective, all forms of asceticism do not lead to the liberation of all sentient beings. Firstly, they do not foster bodhi mind or enlightenment to become a Buddha. Followers of ascetic practices forget that the fundamental goal of practice is the heart. The foundation of all spiritual practices is the bodhi mind. Ascetic practices do not offer any potential for joy or support for enlightenment. There is a saying that the robe does not make the monk. Methods, techniques, and secrets do not necessarily create true monks. Only a pure heart can transform an ordinary person into a Buddha. The story of an emperor will help you understand this better. Emperor Liang Wudi, whose real name was Shaoyan and courtesy named Shuda, was a devout Buddhist emperor. He preferred being a monk, adhering to a strict vegetarian diet and avoiding women. In 527, Bodhidharma, the patriarch of Zen Buddhism, traveled from India to China. Emperor Liang Wudi, having heard of his reputation, sent an emissary to invite him to the capital, Jinling, to teach. Upon meeting Bodhidharma, the emperor, feeling proud, asked Bodhidharma, "Since ascending the throne, I have built many temples, ordained countless monks, printed scriptures, and performed numerous good deeds. What merit have I accumulated?" Bodhidharma replied, "No merit." His response was like a cold shower to the emperor. Liang Wudi asked why, and Bodhidharma replied, "These deeds are impermanent. Though they seem meritorious, they are not true merit." When asked, "What is true merit?" Bodhidharma responded, "True merit comes from realizing the true nature of wisdom and emptiness. It is pure and marvelous beyond worldly ways. It cannot be sought through ordinary means." The emperor then asked, "What is the highest truth of the holy teachings?" Bodhidharma replied, "Absolutely nothing holy." The emperor then asked, "Who are you standing before me?" Bodhidharma responded, "I don't know." Liang Wudi could not understand this and was displeased. Knowing their karmic conditions were not aligned, Bodhidharma left for the north, to Shaolin Temple on Mount Song, where he meditated and taught. Bodhidharma said, "Merit is inherent in one's true nature, always complete. It does not increase with giving or decrease without giving. Good deeds are necessary acts. Why seek merit?" The principle of Zen is to directly point to the mind, to see one's true nature, and to become a Buddha. There is no inside, no outside, no person, no self, no ordinary being, no sage. When Bodhidharma said absolutely nothing holy, Emperor Liang Wudi could not comprehend it. According to historical records, Emperor Liang Wudi built hundreds of temples, ordained numerous monks, printed scriptures, and performed countless acts of charity. He believed these deeds would accumulate great merit. However, when he asked Bodhidharma, the answer was no. Why? Some, not understanding the teachings, explained that the emperor did not personally carry out these deeds, so they held no merit. Later, this question was asked to the sixth patriarch Hui Neng, who explained, "Indeed, there is no merit." Emperor Liang Wudi did not understand the true Dharma and confused merit with blessings. Building temples, ordaining monks, printing scriptures, and performing charity are external acts that benefit others, which are called blessings. Blessings help reduce karmic obstacles, eliminate retribution, and bring good fortune and happiness, reducing obstacles on the path. However, they do not free us from the cycle of birth and death. Merit comes from internal practice, benefiting oneself through adhering to the Buddha's teachings, constantly chanting, observing precepts, practicing meditation, and developing prajna wisdom. Merit helps us cross the sea of suffering, reach the shore of enlightenment, and attain liberation. Merit is beyond the cycle of birth and death, transforming an ordinary person into a bodhisattva, into a Buddha. We engage in activities such as establishing temples, contributing to their construction, participating in their development, and promoting the activities of temples in the Buddhist community. This helps provide facilities for others to practice, thus aiding the expansion and strengthening of Buddhism, enabling it to reach and convert many more people. Emperor Lian Wu Di confused blessings with merit. These activities benefit many people, which naturally brings us immense blessings. However, if we do not cultivate our minds, study the scriptures, observe the precepts, practice meditation, or develop prajna wisdom, all these external activities, while beneficial to others, do not contribute to our own enlightenment and liberation. Why is that? Because our inner greed, anger, and ignorance not only remain but may even increase. The delusion and afflictions do not diminish but instead become denser, as we become attached to the idea that we have done so many beneficial deeds, which few can match. Consequently, our arrogance and pride grow, leading to more delusion. For example, some people donate to the poor or offer a sum of money with the hope of winning the lottery, having a successful business, achieving great profits, winning competitions, ensuring family peace, having good fortune in love, achieving all their desires, and so on. When greed increases to such an extent, how can there be merit? Such actions only generate limited blessings proportional to the money given. Small seeds yield small fruits. It cannot be otherwise. We should diligently perform all good deeds and then forget about them, without clinging to or boasting about our contributions or hoping for rewards. By reducing our desire for fame and lessening our attachment to the self, our actions will benefit both others and ourselves, creating both blessings and merit. Therefore, the first step to achieving spiritual fruit is to maintain a pure mind. It can be concluded that Devadatta symbolizes the inner demons within each of us, representing the greed, anger, and ignorance of sentient beings. The Jataka tales mention many instances of enmity between the Buddha and Devadatta. Whenever Bodhisattva Siddhartha appeared in the world to teach, Devadatta would follow to find ways to harm him. Whether the Bodhisattva manifested as the king of elephants or monkeys, Devadatta would appear as a hunter. When the Bodhisattva appeared as a wise and kind merchant, Devadatta would appear as a malicious and cunning trader. This shows that not only in this life, but in many previous lives, Devadatta has always followed the Buddha to sabotage him. However, with infinite compassion, despite all the crimes Devadatta committed, the Buddha ultimately forgave him and predicted his eventual attainment of Buddhahood after paying off his karmic debts in hell and practicing to achieve enlightenment. In the Theravada scriptures, Devadatta is often seen as a malevolent figure who committed many sins. Conversely, in Mahayana scriptures, Devadatta is viewed as a bodhisattva practicing adverse actions, creating obstacles to the practice of others. By following and creating such obstacles, he helped Bodhisattva Siddhartha perfect the virtue of patience, paramita, leading to his ultimate enlightenment as a Buddha. The Buddha never saw Devadatta as an enemy, but always considered him one of his greatest spiritual teachers. Without Devadatta, the Buddha might not have attained enlightenment so easily. Devadatta symbolizes the adversities and challenges in life and on the path of Buddhist practice. We must understand that human wisdom matures in silence, while character matures in the storms. Like airplanes taking off against the wind or ships built to sail into the ocean despite storms, these sayings encourage us to overcome adversity and see challenges as opportunities for growth. Life's storms may knock us down, but after falling, we must stand up and continue moving forward. If we become discouraged by difficulties, stop, or even regress, we will never achieve results on the path of practice. Devadatta symbolizes obstacles and trials, while the Buddha represents one who has overcome these challenges. We must follow the Buddha's example to find peace and progress on the path to enlightenment. There will be people who envy and harm us, those who insult and defame us, and some who may even beat or wish us dead. How should we respond to them? Fighting hatred with hatred only perpetuates suffering, as the Buddha taught in the Dhammapada. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is a law eternal. Indeed, retaliating with hatred only builds more animosity. In contrast, using compassion to transform hatred can dissolve it. Practicing Buddhists must cultivate love. It is easy to love those who love us, but the real challenge and virtue lie in loving those who hate us. Doing the difficult task is what defines a true practitioner. Additionally, we must feel compassion for those who harm us, understanding that they may suffer karmic retribution in the future. we should vow to use various means to guide and transform them. By cultivating compassion, we can gradually transform enmity into friendship and convert adversaries into good spiritual companions. Devadatta's story is a living lesson for future practitioners. We must introspect and recognize that neglecting inner cultivation while pursuing supernatural powers and fame leads to failure. Devadatta's mistakes serve as a warning: living within the Dharma without tasting its sweetness, living in liberation while remaining bound by delusion. To avoid his pitfalls, we must focus on inner cultivation, control our minds, and prevent negative thoughts from arising. Only then can we attain peace and liberation on the path of practice. 30 Mysterious Zen Stories from Zen Masters to Unlock Infinite Wisdom. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Reading and enjoying these small classic Zen stories will help you grasp the unique appeal of Zen thought in a natural and comfortable way. This will help you understand that although Zen is profound, its form is extremely simple and lively, which is said to penetrate straight to the heart without words. Each story in this book fully embodies the wisdom of Zen masters and Buddhist scriptures, containing countless true meanings of life, making it an excellent book for life enlightenment. 1. Zen Beyond Life and Death. Wang Tian was skilled in medicine, but was haunted by the deaths he witnessed. One day, he met a monk named Yun Shui and asked, "What is Zen?" Yun Shui replied, "It's hard to explain, but once you understand Zen, you will no longer fear death." Wang Tian then sought guidance from Zen master Nan Yin. Nan Yin said, "As a doctor, you must take good care of your patients. That is Zen." Wang Tian was skeptical and visited Nan Yin 3 times, always receiving the same answer. On his 4th visit, Wang Tian complained, "You always tell me to take care of my patients. If that's Zen, I won't seek your advice anymore." Nan Yin smiled and directed him to study the word mu, nothingness, from the Jiaozhou Mu koan. For 2 years, Wang Tian struggled to understand it, and upon returning, Nan Yin still said he hadn't achieved Zen. Another 1.5 years later, Wang Tian finally purified his mind and the fear of death dissipated. Mu became his truth. He excelled in caring for patients without knowing it, and no longer worried about death. Finally, Nan Yin told him, "From forgetting oneself to having no self, that is the manifestation of a Zen mind." As a doctor who often dealt with dying patients, Wang Tian saw death frequently and was deeply troubled by it, affecting both others and himself. Nan Yin wanted him to care for patients genuinely, as neglecting responsibility and compassion would not lead to Zen. From mindfulness to selflessness, from existence to non-existence, this is the Zen state of no death. Zen wisdom. Being distressed by life and death without understanding Zen means one fears death and abandons duties. Achieving a state of selflessness and no self can truly manifest the Zen mind. 2. Zen turning stone hard. Han Yu was one of the most adamant opponents of Buddhism. Emperor Xianzong of Tang revered Buddhism and invited the Buddha's relics to be worshipped in the palace. One night, a light shone in the palace, and everyone congratulated the emperor, except Han Yu, who said, "That light is from the dragon guardians, not from the Buddha." He insulted Buddhism and was demoted to a minor official in Chaozhou. In Chaozhou, Zen master Da Dian was highly respected. Han Yu visited him with a skeptical attitude. Upon arrival, Da Dian was in meditation, and Han Yu had to wait a long time. The attendant, seeing Han Yu's impatience, struck a bell 3 times beside Da Dian and whispered, "Calm before wisdom," meaning Da Dian's Zen was affecting Han Yu's arrogance, but wisdom was needed to remove his stubbornness. Han Yu left in frustration. Later, Han Yu returned and asked, "How old are you, master?" Da Dian, counting prayer beads, replied, "How many?" Han Yu, confused, said, "I don't know." Days later, Han Yu returned and asked a young monk the same question, who responded by clicking his tongue 3 times. Han Yu finally realized Buddhism is not dualistic but unified. Han Yu's question about age was from a worldly perspective of measuring time. Time is endless, without beginning or end, so how can it be measured? The clicks symbolize life's endless cycles and the need to understand one's eternal essence, seeing beyond physical reality to find eternal truth in the universe. Han Yu's attitude towards Buddhism changed, and he became friends with Da Dian, often discussing Zen. Before leaving Chaozhou, he wrote a poem for Da Dian, illustrating Zen's profound ability to transform and enlighten. Zen wisdom. Zen can make stone nod, and turn steel into water. Such is the power of Zen. 3. Boundless Zen power. Zen master Dao Shu of Shouzhou, born Wenxi in Tangzhou, studied scriptures from a young age. At 50, he met the high monk Yu Yu and ordained under Mingyue Shanhui Wen. Dao Shu later built a monastery near a Taoist temple. The Taoists harassed the monks daily with illusions of demons and storms, driving away young monks. Yet Dao Shu stayed for over 10 years unaffected. Eventually, the Taoists exhausted their tricks and left. When asked how he overcame them, Dao Shu said, "I defeated them with nothingness." Nothingness? They asked. Dao Shu explained, "Their powers are limited, finite, and constrained, while my power of nothingness is infinite and boundless. The unchanging defeats the ever-changing." Zen wisdom. Simplifying complexity, preferring simplicity over materialism, often allows one to understand life's true meanings. In today's materialistic society, simplifying things enables one to live freely and contentedly. 4. As if it were not nothingness. An old woman was often irritated by trivial matters. One day, she went to see a Zen master to talk about Zen. After listening to her, the Zen master took her to the meditation room, made a fuss, and left. The old woman, furious, cursed loudly for a long time, but the Zen master ignored her. She then began to plead, but the Zen master still paid no attention. Finally, the old woman fell silent. The Zen master asked from outside the door, "Are you still angry?" She replied, "I'm just angry at myself. Why did I come to this wretched place to suffer in the dark? If you can't even forgive yourself, how can you calm the waters in your heart?" The Zen master said, brushing off his sleeves as he left. After a while, the Zen master asked again, "Are you still angry?" She replied, "No, I'm not angry." "Why not?" "Because there's no point in being angry." The Zen master left again. When he returned for the third time, the old woman said, "I'm not angry anymore because it's not worth it." The Zen master laughed. "You still know what is worth it and what is not, so there is still a root of anger in your heart." When the Zen master stood outside the door, the old woman asked, "Master, what is anger?" The Zen master poured out the tea in his cup onto the ground. The old woman saw this and suddenly realized, bowing to thank the master before leaving. Life is like the tea in the Zen master's cup, mixed with mud in an instant, so short-lived. Trivial matters in life are not worth spending time on being angry. In life, trivial matters should not be contested, for endless competition only leads to no clear winner. Zen wisdom. Desiring what cannot be attained is futile. One must stop seeking and clear the mind. In doing so, everything is as if it were nothingness, but not truly void. It is all emptiness. 5. Mother leading a donkey for her daughter. Practicing Zen involves not only sitting meditation, but also humbly learning from the stories of Zen patriarchs. These stories teach how they attained enlightenment and how they instructed their disciples in Zen practices, daily life attitudes, words, actions, and ways of considering matters. Zen master Shoshan Jingnian, died 993, was a highly respected monk of the Song dynasty. One day a monk asked him, "What is Buddha?" The Zen master replied, "A newlywed daughter rides a donkey while the mother-in-law leads it." The master meant that the newlywed daughter, not long at her husband's home, sits on the donkey while her mother-in-law holds the reins and leads the way home. This answer contradicts common sense and traditional Chinese filial piety. If interpreted that the daughter is too tired or pregnant and the mother-in-law, out of love, lets her ride the donkey, it would make sense and be heartwarming. Zen wisdom. Zen frees the heart from societal bonds, allowing free and independent thinking. Understanding and resolving issues from different perspectives may yield unexpected results. Zen is freedom. One day, a heavy rainstorm hit the mountain, with raindrops as big as beams hitting the old roof tiles. Soon, the main hall began to leak. "Quick, get something to catch the water," Zen master Hui Xuan shouted. But the leaking was so severe, it seemed the poor temple didn't even have a bucket. Is there truly nothing to catch the water? The disciples scrambled around but found nothing suitable. Suddenly, a young monk ran out with a bamboo basket. Using a bamboo basket to catch water? Such an absurd act. Of course, it couldn't solve the problem. However, afterward, Zen master Hui Xuan highly praised the young monk and scolded the disciples who were hastily moving furniture. The young monk was praised because he did not rely on logical reasoning but quickly grabbed the bamboo basket. For him, the idea that a bamboo basket can't catch water did not exist in his mind. Compared to saying it was an abnormal act, it is better to say he was not enslaved by the limits of pure knowledge. Therefore, he was free. Zen values this freedom the most, often requiring breaking free from conventional thinking. However, saying break free from conventional thinking should not be bound by this statement. Zen is absolute freedom, unconstrained by forms like sitting meditation. The spirit that fits freedom is the most important. Zen wisdom. Adhering strictly to the form of sitting meditation can lose the true spirit of Zen. The basic spirit of Zen is freedom. If one can't attain enlightenment through sitting meditation, then it's better not to sit. 7 can't be taken away. A Zen master visited a wealthy man's house. After a grand reception, the host wanted to give a valuable gift to the Zen master. He led the Zen master to a chest full of treasures. The master asked, "Are all these yours?" The host proudly replied, "Yes." The Zen master said, "Too little." The host, surprised, asked, "Master, do you have more?" The master replied, "I have much more than you immeasurable." The host asked, "Where?" The Zen master said, "Look, you have so many treasures, but don't dare to wear them for fear of being robbed, nor leave them at home for fear of theft. You lock them in a chest, visit them once a week, and touch them as if they are yours. That's too simple. I visit jewelry stores, ask them to take out the treasures, touch them, and they are mine. What's the difference?" The Zen master continued, "People often get confused about this. They don't know how to use their wealth for good deeds and real merit, which can be taken along. The Buddha said sentient beings are ignorant and deluded for this reason." The host realized the truth. As the saying goes, wealth can't be taken when alive and can't be brought when dead. Zen teaches, wealth should not be accumulated but dispersed. The more you give away, the more you receive. Accumulating it becomes a disease, turning into evil. Zen wisdom. Learning Zen aims to expand wisdom and enlightenment, understanding the true nature of worldly things. Everything in the world is illusory, as the Buddha said. Nothing can be taken, only karma follows. Natural mind. Junquan asked Zen master Shenhui, "What is the Tao?" The master replied, "The Tao is nameless." Junquan asked again, "Since the Tao has no name, why call it the Tao?" The master answered, "The Tao itself says nothing. It's called the Tao just to provide an answer." Junquan continued, "If the Tao is a false name, is namelessness true?" The master replied, "Not true either." Junquan asked, "Since it's neither named nor true, why say the nameless is the Tao?" The master smiled, "These explanations are only because you asked. If there were no questions, nothing would be said. Life is Zen, and Zen is life. The state of Zen is self-control, liberation, and peace. Zen brings the source of happiness, understanding the true meaning of Zen, and learning to live peacefully, which allows grasping the essence of life. In a complex society with excessive material desires, simplifying complexity enables entering and exiting freely and living freely and comfortably. Zen wisdom. Zen does not tolerate divided hearts. True Zen is natural, unintentional action. Not attaching to logic or things is the true experience of Zen. 9. Zen in the heart. Zen emphasizes formlessness as its fundamental teaching. Form refers to the appearance and state of things, phenomena, as well as symbols and concepts in the process of cognition. Buddhist teachings suggest that any existence, once grasped in a certain form, is distorted. The essence of existence can only be understood, not expressed, so everything is emptiness. Somgon Chu visited the famous master Du Yuan at Shangguo Temple. To express his enlightenment, he proudly told Du Yuan, "Mind, Buddha, and sentient beings are all empty. The true nature of phenomena is emptiness, no enlightenment, no delusion, no sate, no ordinary being, no killing, no receiving." At that moment, Du Yuan was smoking and didn't respond. Suddenly, he picked up his pipe and struck Somgon Chu, causing him to become furious. Du Yuan asked, "If everything is empty, why are you angry?" Zen says, standing on a high mountain and walking in the deep sea. Humility is a basic element in solving problems. If one cannot fully understand oneself and tries to show off, one cannot accept wisdom. Therefore, to become truly wise, one must be humble. Zen wisdom. The attitude of the heart determines everything. Talking about the heart aims to solve problems. If the heart's problems are resolved, the issues arising from the heart's confusion will no longer cause endless suffering and sorrow for humanity. 10. All things have birth and death. There was a very clever young monk. His teacher had a very precious teacup, a rare treasure in the world. The young monk accidentally broke it and felt extremely anxious. Just then he heard his teacher's footsteps and quickly hid the broken cup behind his back. As his teacher walked by, the young monk suddenly asked, "Why do people have to die?" His teacher replied, "It's natural. All things in the world have birth and death." At that moment, the young monk brought out the broken cup and said, "Your teacup has reached its time of death." Shenjia has a famous verse, "Spring has flowers, summer has breezes, autumn has the bright moon, winter has snow. If useless things do not trouble your mind, every season is a good season." If in our lives we no longer worry about the sacrifices of external things, no longer destroy our precious happiness by comparing ourselves with others, no longer experience the highs and lows due to the colorful forms of joys and sorrows in life, then what reason do we have not to be happy and content? Zen wisdom. Zen pursues the natural essence, unadorned, seeing life as a state of natural movement. Perceive the world and life's gifts with an original heart. 11. Everything is in accordance. A wealthy man invited Zen Master Tianya to write a blessing for the longevity and prosperity of his family, to keep as a family heirloom for generations. Zen Master Tianya took out a large piece of paper and wrote, "Father dies, son dies, grandson dies." The wealthy man was suddenly enraged, saying, "I invited you to write a blessing for my family's eternal happiness. Why are you joking?" "I'm not joking," Tianya explained. "If your son dies before you, you will be extremely sorrowful. If your grandson dies before you, you and your son will be heartbroken. If your family members all die in the order I wrote, then you are enjoying the full span of life. I believe that is true prosperity." Zen Buddhism teaches that, whether we perceive it or not, human existence cannot be separated from nature. The more a person feels their ego, striving for an impossible perfection, the more they violently distance themselves from the center of existence. Therefore, in work, everything has cause and effect, and everything is natural. Everything is in accordance, so why suffer in pursuit of unattainable perfection? Zen wisdom. Zen requires a clear mind and the cultivation of character, letting everything follow its natural course, without adhering to any specific form. As long as one's heart is good, actions and words follow the heart, then practices like ordination, precepts, celibacy, and venerating Buddha are unnecessary. 12. Sudden enlightenment of the heart. Zen teaches that the conflict between the subjective and the objective is the root of difficulty and suffering. The external objective environment is eternally unchanging, but the real difficulty lies in one's own subjective world. To eradicate it, one must let go of attachments and find peace of mind. A monk asked Zen Master Yaoshan, "How can I not be confused by external conditions?" Master Yaoshan replied, "What does the external environment have to do with you? How can it trouble you?" The monk said, "That is truly what I cannot understand." Yaoshan said, "In fact, it is you who is confusing yourself." Zen requires human enlightenment and experience. It is the inner mystery of humans and the extension of human thinking to a higher level. Even if one does not believe in Buddha, one can practice Zen in life, realizing the joy of life, subtly understanding and knowing one's heart. In fact, Zen is not something too mysterious. Zen ideas are everywhere in life. Rely on oneself to feel, understand, and grasp. Zen wisdom. As it is said, leisurely and free, nothing to do, sleeping until the sun rises in the east window. Everything observed in tranquility is self-satisfied, in every season, prosperity with all. The Tao connects heaven and earth beyond form, entering the ever-changing wind and clouds. Wealth and glory do not corrupt, poverty and humility are joyous. To reach this point is to be truly heroic. Compassion is not easy. As the year was ending, Zen Master Foguang was on a pilgrimage and returned to the Beihai temple of his disciple Pingtong to celebrate the new year. The temple was dark when he arrived. He knocked on the door but received no answer, thinking Pingtong might not be back yet. He sat cross-legged in meditation outside the temple, waiting. After a while, his attendant couldn't bear it anymore and climbed over the wall, finding an unlocked door inside. The attendant opened it and invited the Zen Master in. After entering, Zen Master Foguang told the attendant, "Lock all the doors again." After about 2 incense sticks' time, Pingtong finally returned. He tried to unlock the door but couldn't. He muttered, "Strange, this key is right, why won't it open? Perhaps the door hasn't been used for too long and has rusted shut." Pingtong tried again, but the door wouldn't budge. He had no choice but to climb in through a small side door. Just as he stuck his head inside, a deep voice asked, "Who are you? Why are you climbing over the door?" Pingtong was shocked, thinking he had entered the wrong house. Zen Master Foguang frightened his disciple, then ordered the attendant to open the door and invite Pingtong in. When Pingtong saw it was his master, he quickly bowed and said, "Master, just now your voice like a lion's roar terrified me, making me unsure who is the master and who is the guest." Zen wisdom: compassion is not easy. In fact, if we put ourselves in others' shoes, compassion becomes easier. In Zen, enlightenment comes from not distinguishing oneself from others. This transcends the sea of birth and death. 14. The language of fingers. Young novice monk Namlai watched his senior monks going to the Zen hall for meditation every day, and he desired to join them. Gathering his courage, he asked Zen Master Molu for permission to join. Master Molu said, "Learning Zen requires dedication and seriousness. No playing around. At your young age, it's not suitable yet. Wait until you're older." Namlai, persistent, said, "Master, I am determined and will not give up. Please give me a chance." Reluctantly, Master Molu agreed, saying, "Listen carefully, you can hear the sound of 2 hands clapping. Now go to the Zen hall and find the sound of 1 hand clapping." Namlai bowed and went to the hall, contemplating the problem. He heard a sound from the window and joyfully thought he had understood. He rushed to Master Molu to report the sound. Master Molu said, "That's not it. That's not the language of the hand." Namlai thought perhaps it needed to be something different. He moved far away and pondered the language of the hand. Hearing the sound of dripping water, he ran to Master Molu and mimicked the sound. Master Molu said, "That's the sound of dripping water, not the language of the hand. Keep trying." Namlai continued his efforts, listening for the sound of the hand, to no avail. Every day he heard the wind, cicadas, insects, and owls. Over 3 years he visited Master Molu dozens of times, each time rejected. What is the language of the hand? Focused on Zen, he eventually fell into true meditation, transcending all sounds. Finally, Namlai realized, worldly sounds are impermanent. Only the soundless language of the hand is the true language of the hand. The famous koan by Zen Master Bayan involves 2 fingers creating a sound, but for a Zen practitioner, how can one hear the sound of a hand without friction? The purpose of Master Bayan's koan is to lead practitioners into the indistinguishable world. Bayan also used the koan Jiao's No from the 5th Patriarch Vaiyan and the Great Master Dahui for beginners. However, No is difficult to grasp and leads to doubt. Thus, the hand koan encourages determination, easily leading to enlightenment. After instructing young Namlai in the method of enlightenment, Master Molu's teaching bore fruit. Zen wisdom. The existence of a hand is natural. Even in absolute silence, a person with a Zen heart can hear the silent sound, which is the language of the hand. In a noisy world, why can't we hear anything? 15. The bell ringer. The bell, chung, is a signal in Buddhist temples and monasteries. The morning bell rings rapidly at first and then slowly, waking everyone up and reminding them not to continue sleeping after a long night. The evening bell rings slowly at first and then rapidly, signaling everyone to put things down and rest. Therefore, a day's activities in the temple start and end with the sound of the bell. One day, Zen Master Dish Tuong woke up from meditation just as the bell rang. He listened attentively, and after the bell stopped, he couldn't help but call his attendant and ask, "Who was on bell duty this morning?" The attendant replied, "It was a new novice monk." So, Zen Master Dish Tuong asked the attendant to call the novice monk over and asked, "What were you thinking when you rang the bell this morning?" The novice monk, not knowing why the master was asking, replied, "Nothing special. I was just ringing the bell because it was my duty." Zen Master Dish Tuong said, "Not necessarily. When you rang the bell, you must have had something in mind. The sound of the bell today was extraordinarily clear and noble, which must have come from someone with a sincere and upright heart." The novice monk thought for a while and then said, "Master, in fact, before I became a monk, My teacher always warned me that when ringing the bell, I should think of the bell as Buddha. I should be reverent and pure, treating the bell with the same respect as Buddha, ringing it with a meditative heart and a sincere mind. Hearing this, Zen Master Dishtuom was very pleased and reminded him, in the future, handle everything with the same meditative heart as when you rang the bell this morning. This novice monk, trained from a young age to be respectful and careful, not only in ringing the bell but in everything he did, always remembered the teachings of his teacher Tich Do and Zen Master Dishtuom. He maintained the meditative heart of the bell ringer and later became the Zen Master Sam Dien Ngo Do. Zen wisdom: one day as a monk, one day ringing the bell. To be a good monk, you must ring the bell earnestly. Simple tasks often contain profound truths. 16. The mind like a bright mirror. The fifth patriarch of Zen, Zen Master Hongren, announced that he would pass on his robe and bowl, selecting a successor by asking everyone to express their understanding. At that time, a monk named Shenshu, who was the first seat, wrote a verse on the wall. The body is the Bodhi tree, the mind like a bright mirror stand. Time and again brush it clean, and let no dust alight. A worker in the rice mill saw Shenshu's verse and wrote his own. Bodhi is originally not a tree, nor is the bright mirror a stand. Since originally there is not a single thing, where could any dust alight? This worker later inherited the robe and bowl, becoming the sixth patriarch of Zen, Huining. Zen Master Huining said, Bodhi is originally not a tree, nor is the bright mirror a stand. Since originally there is not a single thing, where could any dust alight? Of course, the realm of Zen Master Huining is not something ordinary people can reach. However, Shenshu's verse, the body is the Bodhi tree, the mind like a bright mirror stand. Time and again brush it clean, and let no dust alight, means that the essence of sentient beings is a tree of enlightened wisdom, and their mind is like a bright mirror stand. One must constantly clean it, not allowing dust to obscure its light. Perhaps this is more suitable for ordinary people. Living in a complex modern society where fame and profit come and go, this verse is truly a good remedy for overcoming personal troubles and achieving liberation. Zen wisdom: only by brushing it clean time and again and letting no dust alight can we maintain a calm heart, think clearly, see through things, be able to pick up and put down, conduct ourselves clearly, and live generously without being disturbed by slander or fame. 10 regrets. A student monk asked Zen Master Vanku, every time I do something, I often regret it afterward. Master, why do I have so many regrets? Zen Master Vanku replied, listen to my 10 regrets. 1. Regret not learning from a good teacher. 2. Regret not associating with virtuous people. 3. Regret not being filial to parents. 4. Regret not being loyal to one's master. 5. Regret not doing righteous deeds. 6. Regret not saving those in danger. Regret not giving to charity when wealthy. 8. Regret not loving one's country. 9. Regret not believing in cause and effect. 10. Regret not practicing the way. Which of these regrets do you have? The student monk scratched his head and said, Master, it seems I have all these regrets. Zen Master Vanku said, since you know they are problems, you must remedy them quickly. The student monk asked, I don't know how to remedy them, so I implore you to enlighten me with your compassion. Zen Master Vanku enlightened him. Just change all the knots in these 10 regrets to must, such as must learn from a good teacher, must associate with virtuous people, must be filial to parents, must be loyal to one's master, must do righteous deeds, must save those in danger, must give to charity when wealthy, must love one's country, must believe in cause and effect, must practice the way. This remedy has only one word, but you must diligently take it. Zen wisdom. The sutra says, Bodhisattvas fear causes, sentient beings fear results. Sentient beings often regret when retribution comes, but if they affirm what should be done in advance, they will not regret it later. 18 Offerings of karma. When the old abbot distributed the fruits offered on the Buddha's altar to the monks, some monks did not receive any. A monk asked, why didn't I receive any of the offerings? The abbot replied, on the 3rd day of the 1st month, it snowed heavily, and you got up late and didn't help shovel the snow. On the 3rd day of the 2nd month, you went out to beg for alms and came back empty-handed and early. Another year, during the old abbot's 50th anniversary, the same monk asked again, "Why didn't I receive any of the offerings?" The abbot said, "You haven't been dedicated to the new monks, only caring about your own cultivation. You gave perfunctory answers to a donor's questions, disappointing their trust and respect, lacking the qualities of a true monk." Later, the monks in the temple started calling the offerings karma fruits. Seeking karma fruits is also a kind of sad attachment. It's difficult to be satisfied and thus leads to distress. The flaw of humans is that it's easy to see others' faults, but difficult to see one's own. People prefer to face others' problems rather than their own. The reason they can't change themselves is that they don't want to change. People often seek to understand issues that don't relate to themselves, bringing on unnecessary worries and blaming others in the heavens. If one can handle things clearly, they will naturally resolve their own problems. Zen wisdom. Karma and retribution are not as simple as waiting under a tree for the shade, as you might imagine. Life and death cycle, good and evil, are distinct, and ultimately there is retribution. 19 pearls sewn into the robe. Zen stories often surprise people, transcending common logic. Among ancient Chinese Zen stories, there is a thought-provoking tale. In the past, a poor man visited a relative and was warmly welcomed with food and drink. He got drunk and fell asleep on a chair. The relative, needing to leave urgently, saw the poor man passed out and sewed extremely valuable jewels into his robe before leaving in a hurry. The poor man, completely drunk, was unaware of this. When he woke up, he simply got up and left. He remained poor, struggling through life, oblivious to the precious jewels in his robe. Later, by chance, he encountered his relative again. The relative, seeing his ragged appearance, couldn't help but exclaim, "You are truly a fool. Why have you wasted so much effort on appearance? I thought your life was comfortable because when you visited me, I sewed extremely valuable jewels into your robe, assuming you would become wealthy. But you've remained unaware and still struggle for food and clothing." 20. Helping others and helping one's heart. A one-armed beggar once came to ask for alms at a temple. The abbot pointed to a pile of bricks in front of the temple and said to the beggar, "Help me move these bricks to the back of the temple." The beggar was annoyed and said, "I only have one arm, how can I move them? If you don't want to give me anything, just say so instead of mocking me." The abbot, without a word, picked up a brick with one hand and said, "This kind of work can be done with one hand." The beggar, left with no choice, moved the bricks one by one with his single arm. It took him 2 hours to finish the task. The abbot then gave him some silver coins. The beggar gratefully said, "Thank you, master." The abbot replied, "Don't thank me, this is the money you earned yourself." The beggar said, "I will never forget you." He bowed respectfully and went on his way. Many days later, another beggar came to the temple. The abbot led him to the back and pointed to a pile of bricks, saying, "Move these bricks to the front of the temple, and I will give you some money." However, this beggar, with 2 healthy arms, walked away without bothering. A disciple, puzzled, asked the abbot, "Last time you asked a beggar to move bricks from the front to the back, and this time you asked another to move bricks from the back to the front. Do you really want the bricks moved or not?" The abbot said to the disciple, "Whether the bricks are placed in front or in the back doesn't matter. What matters is that moving or not moving the bricks is different for the beggars." Several years later, a well-dressed man with an air of distinction visited the temple. He had only one arm and turned out to be the beggar who had moved the bricks with one arm years before. After being asked by the abbot to move the bricks, he found his self-worth, and through his efforts, he eventually succeeded in life. The 2-armed beggar, however, was still begging in the mountains. Self-respect changes fate, and actions can lead to great achievements. Helping others also means helping their hearts, with genuine compassion. 21 Salt and soy sauce in life. Zen master Baijan, a disciple of Zen master Mazu Daoyi, was once given 3 jars of soy sauce by his master. After receiving the jars, Baijan gathered everyone and said, "These are gifts from Master Daoyi. If any of you achieve enlightenment, do not break the jars. If none of you can achieve enlightenment, then break them." The disciples looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Seeing no one respond, Baijan smashed all 3 jars with a stick. When the attendant returned to Mazu, Mazu asked, "Did you deliver the soy sauce?" The attendant replied, "Yes, I did." Mazu then asked, "What did Baijan say or do after receiving the soy sauce?" The attendant replied, "Baijan gathered everyone, and since no one achieved enlightenment, he smashed all the jars." Mazu laughed heartily and praised, "That rascal did well." Later, Mazu gave Baijan the mouthpiece, hoping he would occasionally write letters about his progress. Baijan sincerely reported in a letter, "Master, thank you for your concern. Since I smashed the jars, I have never run out of soy sauce for the past 30 years." This indicated that their Zen teachings lacked nothing, and Mazu was very pleased, writing 8 characters for Baijan. "Since nothing is lacking, share with others." Eventually, Mazu founded the Zen forest monasteries, and Baijan established the pure rules, which have been passed down through generations in Chinese monasteries. Zen wisdom, Zen masters interact with each other in a worldly manner, but their exchanges carry deeper meanings. Soy sauce, a daily necessity, symbolizes that Zen practice should integrate with daily life, not be pursued blindly apart from it. 22. Zen meditation is inner strength. Zen and Pure Land Buddhism are 2 major schools within Buddhism, fundamentally opposing each other. Zen advocates sudden enlightenment and self-power to achieve Buddhahood, while Pure Land Buddhism emphasizes achieving Buddhahood through religious rituals and other power. Both schools often criticize each other. However, interesting stories arise from both. Zen master Wuhua, deep in the valley, devoted himself to Zen meditation for over 20 years, supported by a mother and son. Not yet enlightened, he wanted to leave the mountain to seek a master. The mother and son asked him to stay a few more days to make a robe for him. While sewing, they chanted the name of Amitabha Buddha with each stitch, also including 4 silver coins in the robe for travel expenses. That night, Wuhua was meditating when a green-clad youth appeared with a large lotus flower, inviting him to ascend it. Thinking it was a demonic illusion, as he had not practiced Pure Land methods, Wuhua ignored it. The youth insisted, but Wuhua placed a small bell on the lotus and ignored it. The youth and his companions left. The next morning, the mother and son brought a small bell, saying it was found in their dead horse's stomach. Wuhua, realizing the profundity, composed a verse and left, returning the robe and silver coins. He realized the need for deep inner strength in Zen meditation. Zen wisdom. Inner strength is the endurance of one's will, complemented by courage. The greater one's inner strength, the more one can remain calm amidst the world's temptations. 23. Reverence in seeking the Buddha. When Zen Master Tungjiat visited Zen Master Tangto in Muthang, he showed immense respect and courtesy. Once, he was given some lychees by another person and offered them through the window of Zen Master Tangto's room, politely saying, "Elder, these are lychees from my home in Jiangxi. Please enjoy them." Tangto was delighted to receive the lychees and sighed, "Since my late master passed away, I haven't had these fruits in a long time." Tungjiat asked, "Who was the great monk that was your master?" Tangto replied, "Zen Master Tumen. I served him for 13 years. Astonished, Tungjiat exclaimed, "You served a great monk for 13 years and did not receive any direct teachings?" Then he offered all the lychees in his hands to Elder Tangto. Tangto, deeply moved, said, "I am not fortunate. My master instructed me never to reveal this to anyone. But seeing your sincerity today, and due to the connection through these lychees, I will tell you his name." He then shared his heartfelt thoughts with Zen Master Tungduat, who upon receiving guidance said, "There are both demons and Buddhas in this world. When you wish to enter the realm of the Buddha, you must not fall into the realm of demons." After receiving approval, Tungduat was further instructed by Tangto, "Today, I have revealed this truth to you, allowing you great freedom, but remember not to say you inherited it from me. Chentink Kukvan is your true teacher." This story became a well-regarded teaching in the Zen community. Zen wisdom. To learn the way of the Buddha, first establish connections. The connection through lychees can lead to enlightenment. Buddhism is sought through reverence. Gratitude for even a small favor, like the lychee, can lead to the breaking of spiritual barriers. 24. Foreseeing and dreaming. One day, Zen Master Huet Trung of Namdung led his disciples in chanting scriptures and then shared a story with them. Long ago, 2 poor men made a living by selling milk. Every day they carried milk jars on their heads, hawking their goods everywhere. One day, during heavy rain, the roads were muddy and slippery. One of them, being somewhat wise, thought, "Today the rain is heavy and the road is slippery. If I fall and break the jar, all my milk will spill, and I will lose my livelihood." So he churned the milk into butter first, minimizing potential loss. The other, lacking foresight, ignored the bad weather and set out with his milk jars. Both men eventually slipped and fell. One wept bitterly on the ground, while the other remained calm. A passerby asked, "Didn't both of you fall? Your milk jars are broken, and the losses should be similar. Why is one of you crying while the other seems untroubled?" One man said, "I hadn't churned my milk into butter, so today's fall ruined my livelihood. How can I not cry?" The other said, "I had already churned my milk into butter, so the loss is bearable and doesn't bother me much." The passerby understood and said to himself, "The difference between wisdom and foolishness is clear. Those who do not plan for the future will face near-term sorrow." Zen wisdom. The jar represents our body, the milk our life's possessions, and the butter the merit of our actions. The breaking of the jar symbolizes the aging and death of the human body. When one dies, worldly possessions dissolve just as milk does when spilled. 25. Everything has a heart. When Zen Master Baothong first followed Zen Master Tekdo Haitian, Tekdo asked, "Where is your heart?" Baothong replied, "It is the one who sees and speaks." Tekdo disagreed, saying, "Having vision and speech is the deluded mind. There is a true heart beyond words that you do not see." Embarrassed, Baothong pondered day and night, questioning what his true heart was. After 10 days, he returned to Tekdo, claiming he now knew what his heart was. Tekdo asked, "What is your heart?" Baothong answered, raising my eyebrows and blinking. Tekdo then challenged him, "Show me your heart without these actions." Baothong responded, "If so, then there is no heart that can be shown." Tekdo said firmly, "Everything has a heart. To say there is no heart is blasphemy. Seeing, hearing, perceiving, and knowing are deluded minds. Without using the heart, how can one achieve enlightenment?" Finally, Baothong attained great enlightenment. Why do Zen masters often say that the heart of no mind is the Zen heart? Because any heart is a deluded heart, fluctuating between heaven and hell, endlessly. If a Zen practitioner can settle their heart in the realm of no mind, they can then truly arise from nowhere and let the heart live. Zen wisdom. The heart should avoid all forms, whether textual, linguistic, or physical actions like raising eyebrows or blinking. One must also avoid the deluded heart. Talking about the heart's form is incorrect, and saying it doesn't exist is also wrong. As Whitman said, "Neither good nor evil, where is the place for the original face?" 26. The Zen master plants rice seedlings. One day, after chanting Buddhist scriptures with his disciples, a Zen master said, "Reading 10,000 books is not enough. You must also travel 10,000 miles. Reading scriptures alone is not sufficient. Come, let us plant rice seedlings." Planting rice seedlings seems simple, but the disciples competed to work in the fields. However, their rows were crooked and uneven, while the Zen master's rows were perfectly straight. Curious, the disciples asked, "Master, what is your secret to planting such straight rows?" The Zen master laughed and said, "It's very simple. When you plant, focus your eyes on a fixed point, and you will be able to plant straight." The disciples eagerly followed his advice, but still ended up with crooked rows. They reported back, "Master, we did as you said but couldn't plant straight rows." "Did you focus on a fixed point?" he asked. "Yes, we focused on the cow grazing by the field. It was a large, clear target." They replied. The master explained, "The cow moves while eating, and by focusing on it, your rows will be crooked. You should focus on the big tree by the field, an immovable target." Following his guidance, the disciples managed to plant quickly and straightly. In life, how can we avoid detours? The key is to set clear goals and move towards them in the most efficient way. In any process, minimizing cost is crucial. Thus, having distant, significant goals is vital for good work. Goals provide direction and are the shortcut to success. 27. Master Thut Li and the Thief. Zen Master Thut Li was a highly respected monk, known for his teachings and daily meditation in the Buddha Hall. One midnight, while Master Thut Li was meditating with his eyes closed, a thief broke in, brandishing a sharp knife. "Give me all the money in the safe or I'll kill you," the thief demanded. "The money is in the drawer. There's none in the safe," Master Thutli calmly replied. "Take what you need, but leave some behind as I need it for food tomorrow." Surprised by the ease of his theft, the thief arrogantly remarked, "You know your place, old monk." "Taking so much without even a word of thanks?" the old monk suddenly remarked. "Don't be too greedy, leave some for others." "Thank you," the thief muttered, feeling unsettled, as he had never encountered such a situation. He hesitated, then left some money behind before departing. Later, the thief was caught by the authorities. During his confession, he mentioned the theft at Master Thutli's temple, so the officers took him there to confront the master. "Did this thief rob you a few days ago?" the officer asked. "He didn't rob me. I gave him the money," Master Thutli replied. "He even thanked me before leaving." Moved by Master Thutli's compassion, the thief wept and knelt before him, pleading to be accepted as a disciple. Master Thutli initially refused, but after the thief remained kneeling for 3 days, he finally agreed to take him in. The thief in this story was cleansed by the master's kindness, allowing the seed of goodness deep within his heart to grow. What could deter his sincere heart after kneeling for 3 days? How could it not be moved? 28 Zen adapting to circumstances. A young monk asked his master, "Master, what is good and what is evil? How should I choose?" The Zen master replied, "Good and evil reside in the human heart. Only through continuous self-cultivation and detachment can one's true nature be revealed." The young monk remained puzzled, so the master shared a story. 2 men left home to seek work and earn money to support their families. On their journey, they discovered a forest of wild thorns. They decided to cut and sell the thorns. Carrying a load of thorns, they continued until they found a pile of shells and silk. One man dropped his thorns to pick up the shells and silk. Later, they discovered a pile of unclaimed silver. The man carrying the shells and silk switched to the silver. The other continued with his thorns. Soon, they came upon a pile of unclaimed gold. The man with the silver told his friend, "Look, there's a pile of gold. Why not drop the thorns and take the valuable gold? We'll become wealthy." The man with the thorns stubbornly replied, "I've carried these thorns for so long, I won't give them up now. If you want the gold, take it yourself." The silver-carrying man thought his friend was foolish and tried to grab the thorns, but the stubborn man clung to his thorns, refusing to let go. The silver-carrying man, unable to convince his friend, took the gold and went home. His father praised him, saying, "You are wise to bring back so much gold. We can now live comfortably and even make offerings to monks and Brahmins for future blessings." The stubborn man returned home with his thorns. His parents were furious, scolding him for his foolishness. "How could you bring back these worthless thorns? Do you think they can feed us?" Greed for wealth and abandoning old for new are not inherently wrong, but one must consider the reason. Both men left home to support their families. If one remains stubborn, not only failing to support their family but also becoming a laughingstock, the original purpose of the journey is lost. Zen wisdom. Good and evil coexist within a person. Do not ignore small acts of goodness or commit small acts of evil. Good deeds are rewarded and evil deeds are punished. It's not that there are no consequences, but the time has not yet come. 29 Sin from the heart. A layman strolling by a river saw a ferryman pushing his boat from the sandbank into the water, preparing to ferry passengers across. Just then, a Zen master passed by, and the layman hurried up to him, bowing respectfully and asking, "Master, just now the ferryman pushed his boat into the river, killing many shrimp, crabs, and shellfish on the sandbank. Whose sin is this, the ferryman's or the passengers?" Without hesitation, the Zen master replied, "It is neither the sin of the ferryman nor the passengers." The layman, confused and doubtful, asked, "If it is neither of them, then whose sin is it?" The Zen master, with wide open eyes, loudly declared, "It is your sin." Though Buddhism teaches the 6 realms of existence, it centers on the human standpoint. Truth cannot always be bluntly stated, and phenomena cannot always be fully explained. The ferryman earns a living by ferrying passengers, and the passengers travel for their purposes. Crabs and other creatures scurry away to avoid being crushed. Whose sin is this? It is none of theirs, as all acted without malice. Sin arises from a heart devoid of intent, If the heart forgets, the sin is gone. Without intent, there can be no sin. Any sin that exists is a sin of unintentional actions. The layman, stirring trouble from nothing, was rightly chastised by the Zen master. Zen wisdom. The world constantly witnesses countless sins, big and small, but most are unintentional. While we cannot change the world, we can change ourselves, facing everything with compassion and wisdom. 30. Burning the books. Zen Master Vonan was once a vagabond before being enlightened by Zen Master Nuthun, eventually becoming a respected Zen master himself. He had only one successor, named Qingtu. When Qingtu finished his studies, Vonan called him and said, "I have a book, passed down for 7 generations. I believe you have the wisdom to inherit it. Guard it well." "This book is so precious, you should keep it yourself," Qingtu insisted. Vonan, angered, said, "I entrust this book to you to pass down the Buddha's teachings. I have only you as my disciple. Why won't you accept it?" Qingtu explained, "What I inherit is your Zen wisdom, not what's in this book." Vonan replied thoughtfully, "This book has been passed down for 7 generations. It cannot end with me. Take it." Reluctantly, Qingtu accepted the book, then threw it into the fire. Vonan, seeing this, was furious and shouted, "What are you doing? What are you saying?" Qingtu shouted back. Vonan, realizing his disciple's determination, felt reassured. He knew that Dharma would continue to be passed down, and his disciple would exceed him, spreading the Buddha's teachings brilliantly. The flames danced as the words in the book ascended into the air. Zen wisdom. The waves of the Yangtze River pushed the previous waves forward. Elders should not impose their will on the younger generation. The younger generation has its own ideas, which may even be better,